one of the stories that I think of is, I think, and correct me if I get this wrong, but you and your brother shooting cans with Garans that you got from your dad's sporting goods store in Port Aransas, right?
No, it's Palacios, just up the coast from that. Man, I'm so surprised you remember that story. We had a ton of fun. I mean, when my parents retired, we always had a house down on the coast, a little sleepy coastal town, and they weren't ready to shut down by any means, so they opened up a sporting goods store. And Dad's always been a gun collector, an aficionado, and I think I've shown you a couple of the pieces that I inherited. But man, he had two of the things he had were these M1 Garands. And anytime my brother and I were down there, we would grab those things and a box of 30-06 cartridges and head out to the outskirts of town and plink cans off a fence post for an afternoon. And I mean, it was just amazing how accurate those rifles are and how fun they are to shoot. And so. And I still have I have an M1 carbine too that he passed along to me that we used to take out there along a lot. So, you know, tons of
That's
fun.
awesome.
Yeah,
When did
he
you
was a
when did you
he was a
guys move
great.
to Houston?
I moved to Houston. My dad was in the oil and gas business, so we were all around the oil patch the whole time I was growing up. I was born in El Paso. Lived in West Texas. Lived in southeastern New Mexico. You know, the oil fields out around Artesia. And then a swing down to Mississippi for a few years, working on the Gulf Coast where he was working at a refinery, and then ended up in Houston where he, was helping to build refineries with big companies down there. Just as the oil boom was going great guns in the early 70s. I think I moved there in 1974, and I'd never been to a big city that I could think of, or didn't have any idea what this big place called Houston was going to be. And it was just exploding at that time, growing so rapidly. But it was such a thrilling and wonderful and marvelous time for a kid who was a freshman in high school. And suddenly it was, Westheimer and Richmond and the Galleria and, cruising all up and around through the Heights, and, every Friday after work, at night. And I mean, it was just everything I did was exciting there. Everything I did, I got really involved in music at that time, and playing in various bands, just high school things. But it just the people I remember from there, my high school classmates from there. I mean, all just terrifically special to me still at this point in my life.
So this was, you went to school in A-Leaf, and then you went to, did you go to the Navy after that? When did you go to the
No, no, no,
Navy?
no. I joined the Navy very briefly after I graduated NTSU at the time, at UNT now, but that was 1983. But I left Houston and went to Southwest Texas State down in San Marcos, and spent probably three of the most glorious years of my life, floating down the river every day, and working in journalism. I was editor of the magazine down there, and partied my butt off. Again, still playing music, playing around Austin, San Antonio, Houston, those kind of things. And I didn't know anything at all about Dallas other than having been through here a time or two as a kid. And the guy I was playing music with in a band says, "You know what? We need to go to North Texas State and get involved in the music program." And I thought, okay, whatever. So transferred up to NTSU, now UNT, for in my junior year, I think. And it took me another couple of years to graduate after that. But again, that was just a phenomenal time, coming to Dallas and doing just some really crazy things. Uh, Working at a men's strip club. Honestly, made more money made more money than any other kid that I knew at that time. I mean,
In
it was
Denton?
just no, it was in Dallas. I was living in Louisville, going to school in Denton, and then working at at a place in Dallas. But just just crazy, crazy times. I need to write about all that stuff someday, share some of the
Big
memories.
time.
But it would be fun. I always thought it'd be kind of fun to go back and find if it would even be possible, some of the people who I worked with, and not only at the men's strip club, but at the women's strip clubs, because they were all kind of together, and, and write profiles. Wouldn't that be a hoot, if it would even be possible? Lawyers and
Yeah.
attorneys and who knows what, because they were all going to school
Yeah.
at SMU and getting graduate degrees and stuff, and making bank doing, the strip club circuit. But it was when I graduated from NTSU in 1983. Um, I remember walking through, and it was the GAB, still that same damn ugly ass building, and there was this table there, and these guys with these really hip looking white uniforms, had shit on them, and brochures all laid out and everything. And I'm walking by, and I was about to graduate. I had no freaking idea what the hell I was going to do when I graduated. Um, but I stopped and talked to these guys, and they started recruiting me and recruiting me. And before I knew it, here I am, going through physicals and taking all these tests and everything, and got offered to go to AOCS, which is down in Pensacola, Aviation Officers Candidate School. And so I did. I went down there. I was down there for 3 or 4 months, learning all the basics, classroom stuff. Did flight testing and all that stuff. I rode in the back seat of an F4. It was very cool. Um, Out over the Gulf, hit Mach 1, which was kind of fun. And then all of a sudden they canceled the class. It was 1983. There was a recession going on, and I didn't have a technical degree. I had a degree in journalism, even though I had aced all the technical exams and all that stuff. I knew how to do navigation because I've always been a sailor and those kind of things. And mathematics were not a problem. I was in good shape at the time. So it was just the needs of the Navy is what they call it, So they sent me a letter, said, "Hey man, we're canceling this flight class, and we'll try to do what we can with all of you, if you want to remain in the Navy." And they offered me a job as a public affairs officer. I think 1650 is what they called it at the time. And I had also gotten a lead from Texas Instruments. They wanted me to come work for them as a PR guy. And at that time, it was just kind of like, no, if I can't fly jets, I'm not going to do this Navy thing. So that was the end of my Navy career. And hey, I got some fun experiences out of it, and I think even the little bit that that I was involved in it, it gave me an awful lot of discipline and structure in my life, which I think might have been a little bit needed.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. No, I
and
know that
then
game.
it was just off into doing the corporate thing from there on out.
Tell me the story about you were on. I forget. I think you were on a river, and there was a crazy storm, and you basically had to be the one who pulled it all together.
Are you talking about like in the Merchant Marine? Was
I
that
think
thing?
so. I think
Yeah, I
that's
think
what
that
it
was
was.
it.
Yeah.
All right. So the first when I was at Southwest Texas State, I was looking for something to do one summer. And like I said earlier, the oil and gas business was just exploding. Companies like Halliburton, Brown and Root, Stewart Stevenson, all these oil field service companies that were down in Houston at the time. And a guy who I'd known in high school, his dad was an executive with one of these, with Brown and Root, I think. And they had an offshore tugboat company called Jackson Marine. And they said, "Oh yeah, you'll have a lot of fun out there. You'll get to bob around the Gulf of Mexico all summer and make money." And I thought, okay. So I did. I went and signed up for all that. You actually become part of the Merchant Marine, which is a part of the Coast Guard, and get all your certificates and whatnot. They call it a Z card. And so I went bobbing out into the Gulf of Mexico on board one of these what they call work boats. It was about 120-foot long deep sea tugboat, crew of 10. And I was the lowest form of life. I mean, I looked up to amoebas, called a deckhand. Oiler wiper is what my official certificate says, which meant you just did all the shit work all the time, and you worked, there weren't any days off. You worked 2 6-hour shifts a day. You either got on the dog watch, which was midnight to 6 in the morning or noon to 6 in the evening and noon to 6 in the evening or the other shift. So you'd have 6 hours on, 6 hours off, just nonstop. And it was hard ass work. And I was so naive and so ill equipped and ill informed. I mean, I showed up out there wearing a freaking fraternity t shirt. And here I am surrounded by, you know, people I couldn't even understand what the hell they were talking about, but they were the Bubbas from Morgan City and Intercoastal City and, the armpits of the world in Louisiana. And I'm just, hey, what fraternity are you in? That kind of stupid shit. I'll tell you what, man, by the time I got done, I was a completely different person. I knew how to talk like them. I knew how to cuss like them. I knew how to throw down beers. And then when we'd get off the boats, we'd, head to the closest pool hall. And I mean, that was my coming of age experience. The World War II guys went off to go fight in Europe and 21 years old, you're piloting a B-17 or something. That merchant marine experience was my coming of age. I mean, that really was what showed me what life was all about, I think, and how to survive. But to get back to your question, we were out in the Gulf of Mexico that summer, and two huge hurricanes came through, Frederick and David, I remember, because they wiped out downtown Houston. I don't know how old you might have been at that time, but those buildings, the windows were falling out. I mean, it was just hard. The flooding and everything was terrible. But we were out there in the middle of the Gulf of Mexico and towing around a gigantic, what they call a lay barge that lays pipeline off the back. And it takes two tugboats to pull this thing. It's got these massive anchors all over it, and you're running anchors, picking up anchors, taking them forward, and all that. And because the oil companies are paying by the day, they didn't want to shut down until the very last minute. So the storm was literally upon us. One of those two storms was literally upon us when they shut down operations and it made us take care of the barge that was laying the pipe. And then all we could do from then, because we were pretty far out there, a couple hundred miles, I think, was just, drive around in gigantic circles around this barge and hopefully whatever. And a tugboat, it's like a gigantic ocean going pig. It ain't elegant at all. It's not, it's just a big old barely floats pig. And I remember for about 3 days straight, the captain would assign us each a wheel watch, and we'd have to go up in the wheelhouse and literally strap into the chair because this thing is just going crazy and up and down and sideways. And if you didn't have a seatbelt on, you'd get thrown out. And you had a radar screen, and you had, the windows, which you couldn't see out of because it was just nonstop storm, and the windshield wipers didn't even begin to make a difference. And for 6 hours straight, you would pilot this thing around in a gigantic circle. First, you were going bow to stern to the waves, and then you'd try to make a turn as elegantly as you could, and then you're wallowing side to side in the waves, and I mean, 45 degrees easily. And I never had a problem with any kind of seasickness or whatever. In fact, I was the guy that they would send down to the galley for sandwiches and coffee when everyone, needed some food. And I literally got to where I could go up and down a ladder, and these things are pretty steep, carrying all this shit. And at times you'd be kissing the ladder, and at times you'd be standing almost perpendicular to it. Hilarious, man, when I look back on those times. But anyway, and we finally ended up really screwing the boat up. We ran over a bunch of anchor cables. We totally fucked this thing up. I mean, the hull was vibrating every time you tried to. I mean, it was just, and these 15 or 20 foot propellers were all bent up and dinged up and banged up. And I'll try to keep it short, but after it was all said and done, they sent us to a shipyard in New Orleans and to get dry docked and repaired and everything. And the way we got there was through what they call the ditch, which is the intercoastal canal that runs from World War II. It runs all the way through the marshes, the Atchafalaya Swamp. It's just in the middle of nowhere, Booniesville. I mean, if you think they play banjos in Arkansas, they ain't got nothing on the south end of Louisiana. But we had an engineer on board the boat who was really pissed at the captain and jumped ship as soon as we even came close to land. And before he left, he went down to the engine room and just fucked every valve he could find, and totally completely jinked our boat. And so here we finally got into the intercoastal canal, and we're chugging along. Everything's fine. In the middle of the night, and everything goes dark. Everything goes black. And we nestled it into the shore. I mean, fucking snakes, alligators, mosquitoes. Who the hell knows, man? And no radio, no nothing. And I mean, pitch black. And what could we do, man? I mean, couldn't get the engine started, couldn't get the generator started, couldn't get anything going. And so all day the next day, we're all down in the engine room, who was left on the crew. And I mean, we're sloshing around in ankle deep water. I mean, the pumps weren't able to work. And the captain, this crazy son of a bitch. I could write a whole book about that guy. And I did write a chapter about him in a book I wrote. But he was determined to get this generator started, because if he kicked off a generator, he could get other things going and then build from there, right? And without a electric starter, you had to use compressed air. And so he would have me and another deckhand on this tank with a rod going back and forth for maybe 3 or 4 hours to pump that thing full of the 600, 700 PSI that you needed in that tank to get a crank or two. These were massive diesel engines, half the size of your house kind of things. And you'd get a crank or two out of that. And the generators were equally big. We're trying to get a generator started. And long story short, I'll cut to the end. He ends up with a blowtorch in one hand and a can of acetone, benzene, some kind of toxic, flammable shit. Who knows what the hell it was? And we pumped and pumped and pumped and got that tank full. And he said, "All right, boys, this is it. We either live or die right here." And he fired off that thing, got a couple of cranks, and then he starts spraying this shit and blowtorching it. And I'll be damned if that generator didn't kick off, Kablugga, 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 kablugga. And we're all just going, holy fuck. And, no one knows where we are. My parents, I was like 3 weeks overdue for coming in anyway. And this was long before the days of cell phones or any of that shit. And every week I was supposed to go back in. They'd say, "No, you got to stay out here another week. Your replacement didn't show up or something." So no one would even know where to look for the body, is what I'm saying. That was crazy. And so we finally got that thing, everything working and going, and we made it to New Orleans and got to the shipyard. And I still don't know any of the details of how I managed to pull this off, but I got a dime from someone. I think phones were still a dime in a phone booth. I found a phone booth in this damn shipyard and called my dad, and he got me a ticket from New Orleans to Houston. And that was the very tail end of my adventures in the Merchant Marine. I still have just so many great stories and so many great memories, good and bad. More good now than bad, that I want to write about at times. I want to write about sometime.
Oh, you got it, man. And the thing that's really cool is that ever since then, or I guess before then, but ever since then, your experiences with sailing and being on boats have been really cool, and they've taught you a lot about life.
Well, I'm a boat guy, and I'll tell you about what I'm doing right now at work, whenever we get around to it. But I've been around boats my whole life. I love the ocean. Even when I lived in West Texas, New Mexico, we would visit my grandparents on Galveston Bay, and I just couldn't wait to get out with my granddad and in his boat and that not. And then when we lived on the coast in Mississippi, I learned how to sail in a little boat made out of styrofoam that my dad got for us by nearly killing himself with Cool cigarettes. It was a promo they had, smoke 10 cartons of Cools and send in the box tops from the carton and $100 or whatever, and we'll mail you a sailboat. It was kind of like, okay, whatever. And I'll be damned if, for 3 years, I sailed that styrofoam sailboat all over the Mississippi Sound, a little lateen rigged thing, my brother and I. And we just had a hoot and learned everything that there is basically to know about sailing. And over the years, it's been just bigger and bigger boats. Um, I've chartered boats, bareboat sailing, all over the Caribbean, the Mediterranean, out to um, the Galapagos Islands, off the coast of Ecuador. And it's just it's in my passion. I mean, I don't sit down and go through social media to look at bullshit posts that people make or crazy memes. I look at the little sailing clips, man. People doing Sydney Hobart, and America's Cup kind of shit, open ocean sailing, going across the pond. And I mean, that's what gets me going. But I think to your question, it's a metaphor for life, man. I mean, there's nothing in the world that you can't think about what's going on in your life and equate it to some similar situation aboard a sailboat. Sometimes you're becalmed, sometimes you're still, sometimes your fucking sails are ripping, sometimes you can't get reefed fast enough, sometimes you're just freaking in irons is what they call it when you're stuck straight in against the wind. Sometimes you got to go that way to get that way. I mean, so I look at my life a lot that way. And there's a wonderful little book I picked up years and years and years ago. First, you have to row a little boat by an author named Richard Bodie. Um, and that's the story. He uses that whole sailing metaphor as a way to navigate life, to make a pun. But um, and I didn't rip off his work when I wrote my book, but I did use a lot of sailing metaphors because just for me it's very personal, and I live for it.
I love that, man. I love the how poetic that is too. Because
It's
poetry is also a big part of you. What are like maybe your top three moments out in the sea or the ocean or on a lake?
this came to my mind before you were even finished with the question, and that was going back to my time in the merchant marine. And I told you I had a lot of really really good memories out there as well. The quiet times. And I always tried to get on the dog watch, which was midnight to 6 in the morning, even though that meant working from noon to 6 in the afternoon in the blazing frickin' Gulf of Mexico sun, and painting and chipping and scraping and, working your ass off, cleaning the engine room, all that crap. Because in the middle of the night, unless you were a deckhand and a watch sitter, if you were the engineer, the captain, or the mate, you crashed, man. You had an 8-hour day. 12-hour day, okay? But in the middle of the night, you would do some cleaning. You'd have to make sure the galley was all taken care of. You'd have to wash the laundry, make sure the heads were all clean, basic stuff. And after all that was done, it was free time. One of you needed to sit in the wheelhouse and listen to the radios in case, some need came up, and the other one of you could go do anything you wanted. We had a machine shop on board the boat, and I'd be down there making crap with, all the stuff we had in the machine shop, or I'd be out on deck. And as likely as not, I would be up on the very top of the top deck of this thing, just laying there and looking at the heavens and looking at the stars. And no horizon, no mountains on the horizon, just nothing but the ocean and the sea and the constellations. And that led to me just becoming fascinated with astronomy and things like celestial navigation, which I've taken the time to learn. And all 57 of the navigational stars, and how to make a sextant work, and how to plot that down to where you can figure out your location to within 3 yards anywhere on the planet. I mean, that kind of stuff just fascinates me. But to be out there in the middle of it all, and just to catch a glimpse of a flying fish just go zipping above the waves, and barely lit in the moonlight, and to feel the breeze, the warmth of a summer night, and just be surrounded by all that, it was an incredible one incredible memory. There was one time when we got a call in the middle of the night. We were just bobbing around out there doing nothing, just drifting and floating, hove to is what they call it. And they said, "We need you to go 25 miles away, I'd pick up this pipe barge that's anchored to a sea buoy and bring it up to where we're doing all this work. And so got the captain up, got everyone up, fired up the engines. So we chugged off over to get this pipe barge, and it's a big, huge barge, about the size of a football field, and it was stacked like a pyramid with probably 24-inch tubing, So it went up. It went up pretty far, 30, 40 feet at least. And when we get to this thing, some crazy idiot's got to jump across to it and make up all the tow lines, which was me, the 2-inch wire rope, and I got all these bridles and huge fucking steel and iron and in some cases lead couplings that you're making up. And I was too stupid at that age to know what the hell was dangerous or not. Uh, and finally got all that done. And about the time I get all that done, the cook shows up and he throws across this bag and he says, he says, "You're staying on that thing. Here's some food for you." And I thought, okay, fine. And so I literally climbed up to the very top of this pile of pipe, and the tugboat took off in the distance, probably let out maybe a mile or so of this tow line, and I spent the rest of the night, the most beautiful time of my life, just laying there thinking I am so far removed from everything and everyone right now, and just laid there on that piece of pipe and had a sandwich and whatever the hell else the cook stuck in there. And it was just a beautiful moment. I can still see it. And I still do sometimes see it and hear it, the sound of the waves and the feel of the ocean breeze and the taste of the salt and just uh, the sensations of it all, It's a great way to put myself to sleep sometimes, is just to feel that motion. It was wild. It was a crazy time.
That's beautiful. Yeah, and I love that you still do that. I mean, you were in the Caribbean, was it 2 years ago?
Yeah, year before last, went down and sailed in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. I'd been down there before about 20 years ago, and it had changed quite a bit, but still just incredible, incredible sailing. They different destinations you go to, they rate. There's like a level 1, level 2, level 3. It is a rating for how intense the sailing is. The wind, the waves, the navigation, the distance between anchorages, those kind of things. And sailing St. Vincent and the Grenadines is a level 3, which I loved, and I was with someone, my friend Kay, who had never been on anything like that, and she absolutely loved it too. I mean, it was just the two of us. We had a 45-foot sailboat, a sloop, um, a little bit bigger than what we might have needed, but it was the boat they had where we wanted to go. So I thought, hey, what the heck? And I've single-handed a lot of sailboats over the years. I had my own for 15 years or so, a 30-footer, which I always single-handed. And I mean, boats just get bigger or get smaller, but the way they work is still pretty much the same. And we collected a lot of good memories on that trip.
And you had a couple moments where there was one with like an anchor. I remember you telling me that, where you had to like throw down the anchor because the tides were changing.
Throw down the anchor. What now?
Because the tides were changing, and it was a very skillful maneuver.
Oh yeah, yeah. No, I'll tell you an anchor story. This was in Greece. Um, and we were with another couple. This was my first wife and I. And we were with another couple and sailing from one island to another. Beautiful little islands over there, and the ancient little cities that are right up on the wharf. Coffee shops literally right there when you step off the back of the boat. But they do a thing called a med moor, a Mediterranean moor, where it's not like you just go pick up an anchor, a ball in a harbor, or drop anchor somewhere. What you do is you drive in, hopefully on your engine, to the center of the anchorage, and you drop your anchor, and then you pay the anchor chain out while you're backing up to the wharf. And if you really know what the hell you're doing and want to impress the locals, you know just when to cinch in on the anchor chain and put the engine in neutral and then forward so that you literally come right up to the dock, stop without hitting anything, throw your anchor, throw your stern lines out, tie up, Bob's your uncle, you step over, get a cup of coffee, smoke a cigarette, right? And everyone goes, ooh. But that is like the rare thing. Most of the time, people are going, God, you're going to hit my fucking boat. You know, all the old uh, mamas and papas are, yeah, whatever. That didn't happen to us on that trip until we were leaving. And this is an anchor story, but as you're leaving, as you might imagine, you undo your stern lines and you have your engine going, everything nuzzle forward a little bit, and as you're moving forward a little bit, hopefully stay in between the two boats on the sides of you and not hitting them or anything. You're winching in on your anchor, so it's pulling you out into the middle of the bay or the harbor or whatever. And if everything goes all right, you get out there, your anchor's up, you sail off. Everything's beautiful. And this time, though, the anchor was not coming up. It was not coming up at all. And this was on an island, I think, called Parga, uh, which goes back 3,000 years, man. I mean, it's from Roman times, Greek times, Phoenician times. Hell, every civilization in the world's, been there a time or three. Minoan, you name it, Assyrians, God knows, everybody in the Mediterranean. But get out, so get out there in the middle of the harbor and everything's worked fine till now. Now the anchor will not come up, will not come up, will not come up. Boats drifting around. We're starting to get freaked out. The townspeople are starting to get freaked out. And finally, a couple of guys come out in dinghies and get on board, and they're, everyone's struggling with this anchor, trying to get this anchor up. And finally, before the winch burn up, we get this thing to start coming up. And as it's coming up, I realize there's something big on this fucking anchor, It's probably a 50, 60, 70 pound anchor, but it was not because definitely the bow of the boat was down. And I thought, what the hell? And okay, so we get this thing up, it breaks the surface of the water, and it is this ginormous bronze fucking anchor from who knows when, some ancient time, I guess someone had lost their big old ship anchor in the middle of that thing. And before we had a chance to do anything with it, the people from the Greek Ministry of Antiquities were all the fuck over the place, because I guess they think, if you find that anchor, you want to take it home. Like I was going to come home back to the United States with that fucking 500-pound bronze anchor, Hey, let me check this in luggage, okay? Pardon the stink. It's got some years on it, but whatever. So no, they gladly took the anchor away, and it's in a museum somewhere now in Greece. So that's one of several anchor
awesome,
stories,
man.
but that's a good one. That was a good one.
I love it, man. Let's just do this is just a short one. I want to do more of these because we have so much. You have so many different stories that are fun and funny and beautiful. And I've learned so much from you over the years from all these stories.
And likewise, man. I mean, I'm seriously, you've inspired me in so many ways. We'll do one of these, and I'll get to ask you questions. How's that?
Oh, I love it
because you inspire me as much. I mean, seriously, you're one of the most multifaceted people I know. You've lived abroad, you've traveled abroad, fucking poetry. I remember giving you a book of poetry for your birthday. I don't know how many years ago that was. And between the two of us, you mostly knew every damn one in there, Wadsworth, Longfellow, I mean, Yeats, everyone. I mean, and we have that in common. We have a love of poetry and a love of literature and a love of classic movies. We could do a whole episode just on classic movies. And I appreciate it so much when you let me know, oh my God, there's Jimmy Cagney on AMC right now.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. I always think of you because you're the one who really got me onto Turner Classic, which is what I watch all the time. It's on all the time.
Well, you told me your baby girls, man, they're all into it too. They know Ginger Rogers, Fred Astaire.
Yes, they do. Yep. Yeah, Doris Day, G, uh, any number of any of the big actors
Yeah,
and
yeah,
actresses they already know.
yeah.
Sinatra. Yeah, so we'll do one on movies, one on music, and like a part 2 and 3 on water and being out in the ocean and in the seas.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. There's this, you're one of these people that I recognize it immediately in you when we would hang out in the grad lounge and then in class and then walk, and talk after class or whatever. You are way deep. You got a lot going on, man. And I know you've been down the road with things, and I think that's what builds a rich, full life. And you recognize that in people immediately. That they've they've um, they've they've used art and science and a love of nature and the humanities and things as a way to bring meaning to the world and make a comfortable place in it. I always I kid around with Kay and she kids around with me about how lucky your daughters are to have you, as a father because of all the different things, and you and Caroline as well. I mean, between the two of you, can bring to them, that they wouldn't get anywhere else, or that many of the kids who they'll grow up with won't get. So, that's a treasure. I mean, Hunter S.
Thanks,
Thompson.
Jim.
You're my Hunter S. Thompson. You always have been.
I love it. I'll take that, man. That's awesome. Oh, that's beautiful.
And
Thank you,
I've
Jim.
never met a
That
writer
what a
ever, ever,
lovely thing.
ever who uses had never met a writer ever who uses simile and metaphor the way you do. I mean, seriously, when I read your pieces, it's like I'm looking for them. And I can't remember off the top of my
Wow.
head there was something that you wrote that I read, and it literally had me falling out of my chair, going, "Where the fuck did that come from?" But it was spot on. It was chef's kiss. It was so fucking spot on.
Oh, I
All right,
love it.
real quickly
Thank you,
before we
man.
ring off, I'll
Yes, sir.
spin
Yes, sir.
the boat story forward to where I am right
Yeah.
now, and this has got to be. I've had a lot of huge shifts in my life, and this is one that I'm still in the middle of, and I'm loving it. And I know for a fact that at some time down the road, I'm going to write about this um, because it's something I never, every 10 years of my life, if you'd asked me, where will you be in 10 years? I would have fucked it up. I would have completely missed the mark. And this is one of those things. But, I retired officially a couple of years ago, year and a half ago, and sat, sat around for a year and just, I think I needed to do that because it was kind of a, what am I doing moment in my life. Didn't really have a clue. What comes next. And I feel like I'm vibrant enough and young enough still to have an awful lot to do and an awful lot to contribute and an awful lot to say and get out of this world, another 20, 30 years maybe. But I was in this store that I've always been a fan of called West Marine. Just looking around, I think I bought a pair of cargo shorts or something, boat shorts or whatever. And on the way out the door, just on a whim, I asked the guy behind the counter. I said, I've always been a fan of this store. It looks like it'd be a really fun place to work. You guys got any part-time work or something? I was just looking for a little, something to do. And long story short, they said, "Yeah, can you drive a van?" And this was just fortuitous that this happened. I have a commercial driver's license from when I was in high school. One of my jobs
That's
was
awesome.
driving a steel truck around Houston, and I still have a valid commercial license. It's kind of like, hell yeah, man, I'll drive that damn van for you. Within a week or 10 days, I was on staff, and I'm their pro guy, pro rep, and which means I drive around to lakes and marinas all day long, all over North Texas. I meet with boat people. I see beautiful boats. I'm around gorgeous boats. I'm around gorgeous lakes, um, and helping people figure out boat shit. You know, and these are people who have everything from a 20-foot ski boat to a 50 fucking foot yacht that they've got more money than they know what to do with. And they say, you know what? I want to put a full electronic suite in this thing. radar, sonar, fish finder, multifunction displays, whatever. And it's my job to say, okay, well, here, how about all this and this and this and this, and then I go spend the day hanging out with just beautiful people and beautiful places and beautiful boats and doing wonderful things. And the time I spend driving, I'm listening to audiobooks and contemplating life, and thinking just and it's just been so rewarding for me, and working around a bunch of guys who are just like me. Hell, I think at my age I'm actually skewing the average age downward. Because I mean these are just fun older guys. We work our asses off. I mean, I'm schlepping around 60-pound cases of antifreeze every day, and probably in the best shape I've been in since I was in my 20s. Getting all the exercise and all that good stuff. So anyway, that's just kind of where I'm at right now, and I just I I I look back on that and I think how freaking coincidental that all happened. So it's just one of those little spins, that comes at you, and for those kind of things, I'm grateful.
I love that, man. That's beautiful.